O Cidades e Soluções de hoje abre espaço para o país, onde um dia de sol como esse é raríssimo. A Suécia não é apenas um dos países mais ricos e desenvolvidos do mundo. É também uma das nações que mais valor atribui aos assuntos da sustentabilidade. O repórter Rafael Coimbra foi a Estocolmo e trouxe na bagagem um programa inteirinho, feito especialmente para você.
Se você pudesse construir um bairro a partir do zero, sustentável, o que teria nele? Coleta seletiva de lixo, geração própria de energia, uso eficiente de água, um sistema de transportes integrado? Bem, esse bairro existe e fica na Suécia. O Cidades e Soluções veio até aqui conferir se tudo aquilo que foi planejado na teoria já está valendo na prática. Cidades modernas funcionam como organismos vivos. À medida em que o tempo passa, mudanças são feitas aqui e ali, sempre em partes e em períodos distintos. Mas em Hammarby Sjöstad, na Suécia, a história é diferente. O lugar foi 100% planejado antes da construção, para funcionar de forma totalmente integrada e sustentável, dentro do conceito de cidade simbiótica.
What is new in this area is this integrated planning, which now the Swedish Trade Council have made a sort of concept over called City, which means actually that you sit down with both the public and the private stakeholders around the same table and decide how shall you make this area as sustainable as possible before the detailed plan, before you're doing all the roads, all the houses, how high they're going to be and so on. So you decide how should you take care of the waste, what about water and sewage, what about traffic, what about public transport, what about green areas, materials in the building, how high are they going to, etc. All those different things.
O distrito começou a ser planejado nos anos 90. A ideia era unir o útil ao agradável, expandir a cidade para os arredores de Estocolmo e, ao mesmo tempo, pôr fim a uma área industrial ultrapassada. Hoje, o que se vê aqui é um lugar agradável, silencioso, com poucos carros nas ruas e cercado de natureza. Hammarby tem grandes espaços ao ar livre. Os parques e calçadões para caminhar ficam junto ao lago. Nos apartamentos, janelas e varandas amplas para aproveitar ao máximo a luz do sol.
The huge windows, yes, because I mean, we're now in the middle of November and it's going to be even darker in 1 month's time. We have 6 hours of daylight. So we need actually get as much as light coming into our building, into our flats and so on. But all the windows here are triple glazed, just to save energy. And also the houses are also more insulated, so so you don't need so much energy to heat up the houses and so on. So we're trying actually to reduce the energy consumption with all these different techniques, triple glazed, more insulation of the buildings, etc.
Tudo feito com materiais reutilizáveis, como vidro, aço e pedra. Os prédios não são todos iguais, como num conjunto habitacional. Vários arquitetos foram chamados para desenvolver projetos diferentes. A única exigência é que todas as moradias fossem construídas seguindo os mesmos princípios sustentáveis e estivessem integradas entre si e com o resto do lugar. Um exemplo é o sistema de coleta de lixo. O tipo mais simples, como restos de comida, jornais e papéis, vão para esses recipientes.
This is actually to take care of the garbage, the 3 largest fraction. It is food waste, This combustible waste you can incinerate, and newspapers. And you have 3 chutes, 1 for each fraction. And underground, you have the container where you store it until it's going to be collected. All these containers are then in one pipe connected to a house in the outskirts of the area. Because this is a stationary vacuum system, you can also have the mobile, but this is a stationary vacuum system. And then you have 3 containers, 1 for each fraction. And here you have the fan which sucks the garbage in the speed of actually 70 kilometers per hour through the pipes. That fan starts, and then you open one of the containers for the food waste. Empty that one, and then you go to the next food waste container, and then you go around the whole area to collect the food waste. But that is done, you shift container, and then you take the second fraction and the third fraction. And because you take 1 fraction at a time, that's why you need only 1 pipe to the house. You save space in the buildings, you can narrow down the side streets, you don't pollute the air, because this waste lorry comes to this house to collect the 3 largest fractions instead of going into every house.
Nas ruas, caminhão com essa espécie de super aspirador de pó recolhe o lixo que vem pelos dutos embaixo da terra. Os lixos tóxicos, como tintas e baterias, vão para uma área específica. E os recicláveis, como vidros e metais, são separados em depósitos que existem em cada prédio.
Well, here you have the recycling room, where you have then where people come down from the apartments, and you have one recycling room for every block of land. So here you have white glass, colored glass, you have metal, and then you have also plastic, and then you have paper boxes, and then you have also well patterned for big packaging and so on, and you also have newspapers. And so here they come and do this sorting of themselves. I mean, newspapers, for instance, we have recycled since the end of the 60s. So in the newspapers today in Sweden, it's roughly about, should I say, 97–98% of all the newspapers are recycled.
And then this waste goes to?
Then they reuse it. If you look at all the household waste in Sweden, it's only 1% on that household waste is going to a landfill, to deponi.
Wow.
All the rest, 99%, is either reused or we're getting energy out of it.
We have these glasses here.
Yes.
Who collects these?
It is actually, in Sweden, you see, it is the producer's responsibility. When you buy a bottle of, for instance, beer or wine and so on, you pay a small portion, small fee, which goes to the producer, and it's his responsibility by Swedish law to collect them and then reuse them, to get use this for production of new glass.
Uma parte do lixo é queimada e usada no sistema de aquecimento. Outra é transformada em fertilizante. E tem ainda o biogás, que alimenta a frota de carros. Frota pequena, diga-se de passagem. Tudo aqui foi pensado para que os moradores evitassem ao máximo o transporte individual. O comércio e o tráfego estão concentrados ao longo de uma via de 3 quilômetros, que liga as extremidades do distrito. O sistema de transportes é complementado por pequenos barcos que ficam no porto. A meta do projeto é que 80% dos deslocamentos dos moradores sejam feitos pelo transporte público, de bicicleta ou a pé. Se ainda assim alguém quiser andar de carro, pode contar com um sistema de aluguel coletivo. É só pagar uma taxa mensal e pegar um carro em um dos pontos marcados. A liberação do carro é feita por mensagem de texto enviada pelo celular. O seguro e o combustível já estão incluídos no preço do serviço.
Well, transport, for instance, I mean, here we actually, because of the public transport started so early in the area, we have actually reduced the car use to work with roughly about 40% if you compare this area with the similar area around the central Stockholm. And I think that is only due to that the public transport started so early. It started 1.5 years after the first people moved in. And it is vital that you also think about public transport, because the aim was actually to reduce the car use in this area. And we should actually now do a new survey next year, and I hope actually this figure 40% is still there, because now so many other people moved in.
Tanta eficiência e tanto conforto, é claro, custam um pouco mais caro. Mas quem vem morar aqui sabe que o preço inicial é compensado pelas economias no longo prazo.
It costs a little bit more to build the buildings here than somewhere else in the city. But that extra cost is only 2 to 4%, not more. Which means that it's almost nothing. But remember, all these big infrastructure buildings, I mean the heat and power plant, the wastewater treatment plant, the water plant, they were already built. So if you start from the very scratch, of course it's going to cost more. And the investment, you can't think just the investment of that where you're doing it. You have to look at the life cycle of the investment. And that is also with the buildings. You have to look at the life cycle of the building, because that is going to be here for 50 or hopefully 100 or 150 years. And then it's nothing.
Depois de anos em funcionamento, os coordenadores do projeto afirmam que os resultados positivos já podem ser medidos.
I can say it is working actually. We have now looked at 4 areas and we have reduced roughly about to 30 to 40% the total environmental impact. And I mean, this is not an eco-village in the sense that you had to sign a contract or something. It's just an ordinary city area. So I say to be the first in the world with such a large area, such a big environmental program, I think the result is rather good. But I mean, all the targets were set in the 90s. So today we can do much better.
As melhorias estão sendo pensadas para uma nova parte do distrito, já em construção. Quando tudo estiver pronto em 2018, Hammarby Sjöstad vai ter 11.500 apartamentos, com cerca de 36.000 pessoas morando e trabalhando aqui.
I think actually and that is actually happening now in the new area now, where they're going to have a much tougher environmental program. They're going to also produce a smart grid, that if you produce more energy that you need in the house, you can actually put it out into the grid. They are going to also try to be fossil-free year 2030. The aim for the whole of Stockholm is actually that it's going to be fossil-free 2050. But here they're going to be 20 years earlier. And also till 2020 reduce the carbon dioxide per person with half, because today it's 3 tons per person in the year, and there in 2020 it's going to be 1.5 tons per person in the year.
O conceito de cidade simbiótica nasceu na Suécia, mas ganhou o mundo. Já é usado em vários países, como a China, Canadá, Irlanda, Rússia, Inglaterra, França, Índia e África do Sul.
This integrated planning, the thinking, you can bring along wherever you are in the world. Because I mean, in this planning you're thinking about what kind of technology level are you going to have and what scale are you going to have and so on. So it's entirely up to the society where you come from. How much money do you have? How is your other infrastructure and so on? But the thinking you can do. And therefore I think it is actually also applied in other cities in the world, because I mean, in the center we have roughly about 7,000 to 8,000 international visitors every year. And because they have influenced now, taking it back to their countries and their cities and municipalities. And a lot is happening around the world. And also because of the discussion now of the climate change. You have to do things also when it comes to new city areas.